Okay, today is the 1st of September and we are on the 48th chapter of the Samyutta Nikaya, Indriya Samyutta. Yesterday I started on the sutta and I stopped, so I continue from the beginning again. Sutta 48.40. Buddha said, monks, there are these 5 faculties, Indriya. But 5, the pleasure faculty, Sukha Indriya. The pain faculty, Dukkha Indriya, the joy faculty, Somanassa, the displeasure or grief faculty, Domanassa, the equanimity faculty, Upekkha. Here monks, while a monk is dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, there arises in him the pain faculty. Pain faculty refers to the bodily pain. He understands thus, there has arisen in me this pain faculty that has a basis, a source, a causal formation, a condition. It is impossible for that pain faculty to arise without a basis, without a source, without a causal formation, without a condition. He understands the pain faculty. He understands the origin of the pain faculty. He understands the cessation of the pain faculty. And he understands where the arisen pain faculty ceases without remainder. And where does the arisen pain faculty cease without remainder? Here monks, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a monk enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thought directed and sustained, with delight and happiness born of seclusion. And it is here that the arisen pain faculty ceases without remainder. This monk is called a monk who has understood the cessation of the pain faculty. He directs his mind accordingly. Stop here for a moment. So here, this part says that the bodily pain ceases entirely when a person enters the first jhana. As I mentioned last night, when a person enters the first jhana, he is secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states. Secluded from sensual pleasures means he does not pay attention to the sense doors. He is withdrawn into his mind. And then secluded from unwholesome states means unwholesome states of mind. So because he has gone into his mind, he doesn't pay attention to his body. That's why the bodily pain ceases without remainder. Here monks, while a monk is dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, there arises in him the displeasure or grief faculty. This displeasure or grief refers to the mental pain. He understands thus, there has arisen in me this pleasure or grief faculty that has a basis, a source, a causal formation, a condition. It is impossible for that displeasure or grief faculty to arise without a basis, without a source, without a causal formation, without a condition. He understands the displeasure faculty. He understands the origin of the displeasure faculty. He understands the cessation of the displeasure faculty. And he understands where the arisen displeasure faculty ceases without remainder. And where does the arisen displeasure faculty cease without remainder? With the subsiding of thought directed and sustained, vitakka and vichara, the monk enters and dwells in the second jhana, which has internal confidence and unification of mind, is without thought directed and sustained, and has delight and happiness born of concentration. And it is here that the arisen displeasure faculty ceases without remainder. This monk is called a monk who has understood the cessation of the displeasure faculty. He directs his mind accordingly. Stop here for a moment. So here, when a monk enters the second jhana, he has internal confidence and unification of mind, and has delight and happiness born of concentration. So the mind is very delighted and very happy. That's why the any mental discomfort or pain ceases without remainder in the second jhana. And the second jhana is a state where the mind is quite strong. It's because it is strong and that no thoughts can arise. The pleasure faculty. Here monks, while a monk is dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, there arises in him the pleasure faculty. Pleasure faculty here refers to the bodily pleasure. He understands thus, there has arisen in me this pleasure faculty. That has a basis, a source, a causal formation, a condition. It is impossible for that pleasure faculty to arise without a basis, without a source, without a causal formation, without a condition. He understands the pleasure faculty, he understands the origin of the pleasure faculty, he understands the cessation of the pleasure faculty, and he understands where the arisen pleasure faculty ceases without remainder. And where does the arisen pleasure faculty cease without remainder? With the fading away as well of delight, a monk dwells equanimous and collected and clearly aware, experiences happiness with the body. He enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare, he is equanimous, collected, one who dwells happily. And it is here that the arisen pleasure faculty ceases without remainder. This monk is called a monk who has understood the cessation of the pleasure faculty. He directs his mind accordingly. Here, when a monk enters the third jhana, the body pleasure faculty ceases. But you see in the description of the third jhana, it says he experiences happiness with the body. This happiness with the body is the mental happiness, not the bodily happiness. So because it is a higher state of jhana compared to the second jhana, he experiences the mental happiness, but not the cause bodily happiness. So these two types of happiness is found in the second jhana, bodily happiness and mental happiness. But when he attains the third jhana, because he's going deeper into his mind, then the bodily pleasure ceases and he experiences only the mental happiness. Here monks, while a monk is dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, there arises in him the joy faculty. This joy mental refers to the mental pleasure. He understands thus, there has arisen in me this joy faculty that has a basis, a source, a causal formation, a condition. It is impossible for that joy faculty to arise without a basis, without a source, without a causal formation, without a condition. He understands the joy faculty. He understands the origin of the joy faculty. He understands the cessation of the joy faculty. And he understands where the arisen joy faculty ceases without remainder. And where does the arisen joy faculty cease without remainder? With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and displeasure, a monk enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither painful nor pleasant, with complete purification of sati and upekkha, with complete purification of recollection and equanimity. And it is here that the arisen joy faculty ceases without remainder. This monk is called a monk who has understood the cessation of the joy faculty. He directs his mind accordingly. So in the fourth jhana, even that mental happiness ceases because in this state of the fourth jhana, there is complete purification of sati and upekkha. That means sati and upekkha is very strong. So because of upekkha, equanimity is so strong that the joy faculty, that mental pleasure is eliminated by the equanimity, upekkha. So in the fourth jhana, you notice here, there is complete purification of sati. You cannot have purer sati than in the fourth jhana. There's I've seen some book by some vipassana monk that says he says there's no benefit of attaining jhana. He says when you're in the state of jhana, there's no sati. But you look at the description of the third jhana, it is said he enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the Aryans declare he is equanimous, mindful or collected, one who dwells happily. This word here, mindful, the Pali word is satima. He has sati. So even in the third jhana, the sati is quite pronounced. Actually, even the first and second jhana already has sati. But in the third jhana, it's quite pronounced. In the fourth jhana, it is the most pure sati, completely pure sati. The Pali word is upekha sati parisuddhi. Parisuddhi is completely pure, or utterly pure. So the sati and the upekha is utterly pure in the fourth jhana. That's why the joy faculty ceases. Here monks, while a monk is dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, there arises in him the equanimity faculty. He understands thus, there has arisen in me this equanimity faculty. That has a basis, a source, a causal formation, a condition. It is impossible for that equanimity faculty to arise without a basis, without a source, without a causal formation, without a condition. He understands the equanimity faculty. He understands the origin of the equanimity faculty. He understands the cessation of the equanimity faculty. And he understands where the arisen equanimity faculty ceases without remainder. And where does the arisen equanimity faculty cease without remainder? Here monks, having completely transcended the base of neither perception nor non-perception, a monk enters and dwells in the cessation of perception and feeling. And it is here that the arisen equanimity faculty ceases without remainder. This monk is called a monk who has understood the cessation of the equanimity faculty. He directs his mind accordingly. This equanimity, although it is neither painful nor pleasurable, but it is still a feeling. It is still a feeling. So the only time when this feeling can cease is when a person enters the state of cessation, when cessation of perception and feeling. When there is cessation of perception and feeling, it means that consciousness also ceases. So in that state, there is no feeling. That's why the equanimity also ceases without remainder. The Buddha and the suttas, when the Buddha was very old, 80 years old, the body was giving him pain. The body was about to break up. So every now and then he feel very, very intense pain. So he said that he has to enter this cessation of perception and feeling. He enters this deep samadhi state where all feelings and consciousness ceases. Then he has no pain. And then when he withdraws from that state, maybe for a few hours, there's no pain. But after a few hours, probably the pain will come back again. So this sutta tells you that in the first jhana, the bodily pain ceases. In the second jhana, the mental pain ceases. In the third jhana, the bodily pleasure ceases. In the fourth jhana, the mental pleasure ceases. And in the highest, the cessation of perception and feeling, then even equanimity ceases. The next sutta is 48.41. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in the eastern park, in the mansion of Megara's mother. Megara's mother is a nickname for Visakha. Now on that occasion, the Blessed One had emerged from seclusion in the evening and was sitting warming his back in the last rays of the sun. That means the sun was setting down, was going down, and the monks came out of seclusion. Then the Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One. Having approached and paid homage, while massaging the Blessed One's limbs, he said to him, "It is wonderful, Venerable Sir. It is amazing, Venerable Sir. The Blessed One's complexion is no longer pure and bright. His limbs are all flaccid and wrinkled. His body is stooped, and some alteration is seen in his faculties. In the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, the body faculty." And the Buddha said, "So it is, Ananda. In youth, one is subject to aging. In health, one is subject to illness. While alive, one is subject to death. The complexion is no longer pure and bright. The limbs are all flaccid and wrinkled. The body is stooped, and some alteration is seen in the faculties, in the eye faculty, ear faculty, nose faculty, tongue faculty, the body faculty. This is what the Blessed One said. Having said this, the Fortunate One, the teacher, further said, "Fie on you, wretched aging, aging which makes beauty fade. So much has the charming puppet been crushed beneath advancing age. One who might live 100 years also has death as destination. Death spares none along the way, but comes crushing everything." That's the end of the sutta. So you see, when the Buddha was young, he used to constantly meditate and emit a lot of light. That's why his nickname was Angirasa, kinsman of the sun, relative of the sun. The sun is always so bright. But when the Buddha was old, at this time he must have been about 80 years old, then the Buddha is no longer, his complexion no longer pure and bright like before. And his limbs are all his hands and all that are wrinkled, and the skin becomes softer. Body also bent already, like a hunchback a bit, stoop. And in the eye and the ear and nose and tongue and body, all there's some change. Don't look so handsome anymore, the Buddha. So everyone is like that. When we are young, when you are very young, you look, especially like children, they look very cute, everybody. Even puppies also look very cute when they are young. But as we grow older, we start to change. So after 40, then you know, because at the age of about 40, we have this alteration in our eye faculty. Lu fa ngan. We cannot read the newspaper, small letters, to put far away. So after 40, you go downhill very fast. The beauty will fade away and become more and more ugly looking. So even the Buddha is not spared. So if we constantly think of this, then we should quickly use our time, because as we grow older, we become weaker. You see old people, if you go to any meditation center, you see people meditating. Usually it is the old people, the heads will be bent. No strength to meditate. 48.42, at Savatthi. Then the Brahmin, Unnaba, approached the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded the greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and said to the Blessed One, "Master Gotama, these 5 faculties have different domains, different resorts. They do not experience each other's resort and domain." "What 5? The eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, the body faculty." Now, Master Gotama, as these 5 faculties have different domains, different resorts, and do not experience each other's resort and domain, what is it that they take recourse in? This word recourse, and what is it that experiences their resort and domain? This word recourse is a translation of the Pali word pati saranang. Pati sarana, you see the last word is sarana. Just like we chant Buddhang saranang gacchami, so it's refuge, means a refuge, shelter. So these 5 faculties, they have different, fanui, resort and domain. But what is it that they take refuge in? What experiences their resort and domain? And the Buddha said, "Brahmin, these 5 faculties have different domains, different resorts. They do not experience each other's resort and domain." What 5? The eye faculty, ear faculty, nose, tongue, body faculties. Now Brahmin, these 5 faculties having different domains, different resorts, not experiencing each other's resort and domain, they take refuge or shelter in the mind. And the mind experiences their resort and domain. So the mind is the one that controls all these five. But Master Gautama, what is it that the mind takes refuge or shelter in? The mind Brahmin takes refuge in, here is his mindfulness, it's a specific mindfulness actually, it's recollection, sati. The mind Brahmin takes refuge in sati, recollection. Master Gautama, what is it that sati or recollection takes recourse or refuge in? Recollection Brahmin takes refuge in liberation. Master Gautama, what is it that liberation takes refuge in? Liberation Brahmin takes refuge in Nibbana. Master Gautama, what is it that Nibbana takes refuge in or takes shelter in? And the Buddha said, you have gone beyond the range of questioning, Brahmin. You weren't able to grasp the limit to questioning. For Brahmin, the holy life is lived with Nibbana as its ground, Nibbana as its destination, Nibbana as its final goal. Then the Brahmin, Unaba, having delighted and rejoiced in the Blessed One's statement, rose from his seat and paid homage to the Blessed One, after which he departed, keeping him on his right. Then not long after the Brahmin, Unaba, had departed, the Blessed One addressed the monks thus, Monks, suppose in a house or hall with a peaked roof, opposite a window facing east, the sun was rising. When its rays entered through the window, where would they settle? On the western wall, Venerable Sir. So too, monks, the Brahmin Unaba has gained faith in the Tathagata that is settled, deeply rooted, established, firm. It cannot be removed by any ascetic or Brahmin or Deva or Mara or Brahma or by anyone in the world. If, monks, the Brahmin Unaba were to die at this time, there is no fetter bound by which he might come again to this world. That's the end of the sutta. There's no fetter bound by which he might come again to this world. That means he won't be reborn as a human being anymore. That means he's an anagamin. Maybe he has been listening to the Buddha's teachings so that he understood the Dhamma, and probably he had the 4 jhanas. That's why the Buddha says that he is an anagamin. So here the 5 faculties, eye, ear, tongue, body and mind, they are separate from each other, but they have shelter in the mind. The mind controls all these 5. And then the mind takes shelter in sati, recollection. And sati takes shelter or refuge in liberation. Liberation takes refuge in nibbana. The next sutta, 48.43. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Sakketa in the Anjana Grove, in the deer park. There the Blessed One addressed the monks thus, Monks, is there a method of exposition by means of which the 5 faculties become the 5 powers, and the 5 powers become the 5 faculties? Venerable Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One, guided by the Blessed One. Take recourse in the Blessed One. It would be good if the Blessed One would clear up the meaning of this statement. Having heard it from him, the monks will remember. And the Buddha said, there is a method of exposition, monks, by means of which the 5 faculties become the 5 powers, and the 5 powers become the 5 faculties. And what is that method of exposition? That which is the faculty of faith is the power of faith. That which is the power of faith is the faculty of faith. That which is the faculty of energy is the power of energy. That which is the power of energy is the faculty of energy. That which is the faculty of recollection is the power of recollection. That which is the power of recollection is the faculty of recollection. That which is the faculty of concentration is the power of concentration. That which is the power of concentration is the faculty of concentration. That which is the faculty of wisdom is the power of wisdom. That which is the power of wisdom is the faculty of wisdom. Suppose, monks, there is a river which slants, slopes and inclines towards the east, with an island in the middle. There is a method of exposition by means of which that river could be considered to have one stream, but there is a method of exposition by means of which it could be considered to have two streams. And what is the method of exposition by means of which that river can be considered to have one stream? Taking into account the water to the east of the island and the water to its west. This is the method of exposition by means of which that river could be considered to have one stream. And what is the method of exposition by means of which that river could be considered to have two streams, taking into account the water to the north of the island and the water to the south? This is the method of exposition by means of which that river could be considered to have two streams. So too, monks, that which is the faculty of faith is the power of faith. And similarly, that which is the power of faith is the faculty of faith, etc. It is, monks, because he has developed and cultivated these five faculties that a monk, by the destruction of the asavas, in this very life enters and dwells in the taintless liberation by mind, liberation by wisdom, realizing it for himself with direct knowledge. So here, the five faculties are exactly the five powers. So you can consider them actually to be one thing, just like that river. And basically it's one river, but when it comes across the island, it divides into two. So you can consider it to be two separate streams or so. So here you can consider the five powers and the five faculties actually to be the same thing, one thing only. But on the other hand, you can also consider them to be two. I guess you see, when you say five powers, when you possess them, then they are powers. And they are faculties in the sense maybe that which is to be practiced, that which is to be attained. But these kind of things are a bit technical, not so important.